to my show. Searching for integrity. Drop some paper there. My name really is John Smith, and I'm searching for people with integrity. Why? Because our country suffers from IDD, integrity deficit disorder. Today, we have a guest, an author, Hillary Safran. How do I get that one?
Saffron.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the help. And she is here to talk about her book. And I've been looking over her material. This looks like a very intriguing piece of literature here, I might say.
Thank you.
How long did it take you to do the book?
Well, I worked on it for about a year because it's a compilation of 18 inspirational stories. And I reached out to people from my local paper and made some new friends and got some great stories there, my stories in it. But I can tell you the background of why this book was created.
Please.
Okay. I have been working in social services for over 2 decades, and a lot of my clients were public assistance clients. And when you apply for welfare or public assistance, it's usually because you did not win a lottery and things went well. It's usually a dire circumstance, some adversity. For example, a lot of the clients I've had domestic violence incidences, loss of a job, they were going through substance abuse treatment, domestic violence, just very sad events, or a sick child, things like that. So when I had supervised a workforce center in one of the nonprofits I worked for several years ago, before I worked with the state of Alaska, I did a workshop to inspire people and give them hope. And it's called Your Path to Progress. And it was stories of famous people, let's say in history, entertainment, like Albert Einstein and Thomas Edison or Oprah Winfrey, and then present day people, to show that you are not your circumstances. The past should not define you. You are, what's within you is greater than it was what's happened with outside of you. So I wanted to give the clients hope.
Well, that's certainly a task, I might add. And
yes.
That's kind of like herding cats.
Yes, very true. But sometimes, especially if you work in social services, you feel if I could make a difference in one life, 5 lives, you count them on your hand, right. the great victories, but that's very rewarding. So I decided to compile the workshop into a book form. And this book, which I happen to have a copy, is called Fill Your Glass with Gold When It's Half Full or Even Completely Shattered. And what it is, it's based on the material from the workshop, but even more so. And it's designed to sell to nonprofits in bulk sales, bulk discount sales, so they can give it to their clients for free. Because many times when a person is using the services of a nonprofit, it's usually because they're also going through a dire circumstance. We have a nonprofit here that has 200 affiliates nationwide called Family Promise, and it's a homeless shelter, but they offer other services. So if you're using their services, things have not been very happy for you, right? So I wanted them to be able to give the book to their clients for free, so they can feel they're not alone and there is hope and there are services available to help them, and that they can give back. Because my message from the book and from the workshop is this: whatever you have gone through, no matter how much adversity it was, you have developed transferable skills to help yourself and others. And many who have gone through adverse circumstances have created better jobs or careers for themselves, or formed nonprofits, or even formed ministries. And that's the message.
Now, if I'm, that's certainly an endeavor that I'm thinking they're probably happy to have that. You've got some previous books.
Yes, I do. A few years before that, because I had been a single parent for years, and when my last child was, before she was 18, I went through some very difficult times with her. And so as a stress relief, I wrote the book, Laughing in the Rain, Self-Care for the Storms of Life. And it gave a lot of stress management with humor tips. And it was fun, and it was very cathartic, very therapeutic to do that. So that's what I had done previously. And then also I had another one right before this book, because I had become a therapist and coach, and it's called The Little Engine That Could, because it stopped sabotaging itself. And that's really addresses imposter syndrome. And I did hire, you're laughing, yeah. I did hire an illustrator to make it a very enjoyable read. So it looks like a children's book, but it's really designed for people in business or a new job, or who just got certification as a healer or therapist or coach, that feel, oh no, I need 4 more master degrees and 5 more doctorates before I'm really ready. A lot of people don't feel they're as qualified as they really are to do a job.
Now, what's the name of the guy that or girl that drives the train? What are they called? They're not
the
conductors.
The conductor.
Oh,
Yes.
Well,
so I do have a compassionate conductor in the Little Coach Engine book.
That's me. Yeah. I'm the conductor.
There you are.
And I have to watch out about what I'm going to do to myself on being the conductor.
Right. But the conductor who does a great podcast, who does not have imposter syndrome because you're doing the podcast.
Great. I love it. I looked at all these books that you're doing, and yeah. I'm a table of contents freak.
Oh.
I am. That's I can go through your book in very little time, and also hit me with a lot of different things
I try to
if, why, and but,
Yeah, I try to address many, many different topics that would touch people's lives.
Right. Let's start with the introduction. What did you want to say in the introduction?
In the introduction, I am speaking to the client using the nonprofit. And then I try to also interject what the client might be thinking. So, for example, in the introduction, I'm saying, something has happened in your life for you at this place at this time. And, this is unfortunate. But then I introduce what the title is and why. And it's based on the Japanese art form called kintsugi, which is symbolic of life. There was a Japanese art form formed hundreds of years ago where a broken vase or a broken piece of pottery was filled with gold filigree. So many times the broken vase or pottery or glass is more beautiful, broken with the gold in the cracks than it was in its previous unscathed condition. So you can say with life, that we're more beautiful broken if we've chosen to be better, not bitter because you have the choice to respond, not necessarily just react to what happens to you in life. And I address those attitudes at the end of the book. But in the beginning, I explain what the symbolism of kintsugi is. That's why the title is Fill Your Glass with Gold when it's half full or even completely shattered. No matter what happens, you can respond in a way that you will grow as a person, and you can help yourself and others with what you've gone through. And I even addressed something as tragic and horrific as the Holocaust was Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, and how he developed his form of therapy, logotherapy, for people searching for meaning. Responses like that.
I thought went from ear to ear, a little bit here. I was, if you thought about translating the book.
I'd like to. I just did my first 100 book sale to our local nonprofit, and now everything's marketing. But that's a great idea. I think I would. That's a great idea. I think I might, because of you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's something that people would like to know about in Japan and wherever they are.
Yeah, worldwide. It's a human condition.
Yeah. When they see that cover, they're going to buy 5 or 6 each.
God willing, from your mouth to God's ears.
All right. Okay. A man is not a plan.
Right.
Why not?
That was my story. I had very poor, unfortunate relationship choices in the earlier part of my life. And, one had ended with like domestic violence, and it was just, and the second one was he was alcoholic and, drug abuse. And it was just very, very sad. So I learned since, and then I was a single mom for 26 years of active parenting, my 3 children. But what I learned through my own training as a therapist and coach, and all the case management trainings in social services, it is so true. What you feel about yourself is going to be reflected in your relationships, or the jobs you choose, or the people you choose to marry. If a woman, and so many of my clients have had horrendous couplings. I would say, okay, you're on welfare because you have a child, and where's the bio dad? Oh, I don't know. He took off. He does this. He's in jail. He's this and that, So many women felt, oh, a man is a plan. I'll marry and I'll stay home and it'll be wonderful. And, you have to, I think the healthier you are as a person, the healthier you will have in a partner. But if you're coming from a very damaged place, you usually won't have, you usually won't be partnering with the CEO of a bank. You know what I mean? I've seen this. You reflect what you think of yourself. So once I got healthier and I worked on myself and I learned many principles, then I found the love of my life at 62. So it's never too late. And now I'll be married. Thank you. 3 years. Yeah. Coming up. But that's so my story was, I had a brief stint on welfare from being a single parent before I found a lot of my jobs and found myself where I wanted to work, what arena. And the irony was, years later, I was working on the other side of the desk. I've been a case manager for public assistance clients, and no one could ever say, oh, you don't know what it's like. You don't understand. Yes, I do. So that's why I'm tough. But the thing is, so when I've had a client, let's say if they were incarcerated for substance abuse, I would tell them, after you have at least a year of sobriety, you would make the best substance abuse counselor. And one of the stories in the book, Freedom House, is just that. A woman who had gone through many years of horrific substance and alcohol abuse, she ended up in the Kenai part of Alaska, has founded 2 homes, transitional housing for women and one for men from substance abuse issues, to help them. So fantastic story. And I heard her story while I was driving, and it was an interview on the radio, and I'll contact her. And that's how I got some of the stories in the book. It was great. But yeah, I try to touch different topics to show people, no matter how low emotionally they have been, they can turn it around.
Yes. And that's an amazing process. I've gone through that 5 or 6 times this lifetime.
Right? So true.
Yeah. The sound of music. Are we going to hear?
Yes.
We're going to hear some singing here.
Beethoven. Do you know that? I don't know how many people know now with a lot of history not being taught well, like in our generation, but Beethoven was deaf when he wrote most of his most famous symphonies. That is perseverance, but
Right.
nothing would stop him. When you have a gift, no matter what, you are compelled. He was compelled to compose, and his original teacher didn't think he was that talented as a composer. There you go. I mean, amazing stories. I saw a concert once a few years ago. It was Judy Collins. She was 80 years old, great musician, and singer, playing the guitar. She plays piano. And she said she had started out in piano, and she told her music teacher, well, I want to play guitar. I want to go into music as a career. And the teacher said, oh, there's no future, no money in it. And she was Judy Collins. So, don't always listen to what you listen to your heart, right?
Yeah.
If it's telling you something good, of course.
Yes, of course, it's got to be good.
Yeah.
Some of these in here are harder to deal with or to turn around.
Yeah.
As the others. Do you have a 1, 2, and 3 in terms of the ones that really are difficult?
Yeah, I chose, aside from some minor, not great stories, locally, I just knew some figures that had gone through horrendous physical challenges, and they also at one point had wanted to commit suicide. So you can't get lower than that. One is Joni Eareckson Tada. She had become quadriplegic at age 17. She was very athletic and took a dive. It was into shallow water in Chesapeake Bay. And now, 40 something years later, has a huge worldwide ministry giving wheelchairs to the disability community worldwide. She had spoken at Billy Graham crusade. She paints with a brush in her mouth because she doesn't have the use of her hands. Amazing story, but what a beautiful, beautiful soul. I've heard her on the radio. She has a little radio show, and very encouraging, but it turned around that she helped hundreds of thousands. And she has in third world countries, Johnny's House to help the disabled there who are treated horrendously.
Right.
And then Nick Vujicic, he was born without arms and legs. And I've researched this online, and there are a few. There's a certain syndrome, Amelia something syndrome. I have it in the book. And he, at one point, also wanted to drown himself in the bathtub, but he knew that it wasn't going to help anybody. He had very loving parents who said, look, God gave you a mind, use it. Right. And he became, still has a motivational speaker. He got married. He has 4 children. He's a worldwide evangelist, speaker. He has books out, very positive, and he has a great sense of humor. And so I talk about one of his interviews he had on YouTube from Australia, but very, very inspirational, because I'm sure there is a client somewhere who has used a nonprofit, who has contemplated, oh, this life is too painful. I want to end it. It can't get worse. I'm alone. Well, when you read this book, you're not alone. There's stories that address everything, and you can rebrand or reframe whatever you've gone through and take a positive out of it. And when you help yourself and you help others, you get out of yourself, and you'll feel better about life. You're contributing. Well,
sometimes it's not so easy.
No, it's never easy. Nothing's easy. It sounds so, oh, isn't that nice? You're so positive. Yeah, no, everything is work. There's a 4-letter word called work. And people seem to forget, there's no get rich quick schemes that I've discovered anyway. You get broke doing a quick rich scheme, right? But yes, and I address that at the end of the book. I address different steps. Of course, it's not going to be in a nutshell of, to self-motivate. Basically, the message would be, even though about identifying your transferable skills and taking baby steps and trying to have the help of the nonprofit they might be using, technically, you're going to have to choose your attitude. You're going to have to choose how you want to respond to your circumstance and do the work. Everything in life takes effort. So, at the end, I talk about that funny meme I saw. It was a picture of a pig. It was very funny. And it says, I turned vegetables into bacon. What's your superpower? It was a very funny little thing. So really, this book is about turning your life's vegetables into either a gourmet salad, a prime rib dinner, compost for your garden, or whatever new superpower you choose to create. Right? So it ends with a quote from people I became friends with. Living will always have its dark times, but you have to know hell to appreciate heaven. That was from this couple, Ashana and Philip Flippo. His story was pretty remarkable, and I found it in our local paper called Make a Scene, the People's Paper. He wrote an article called How Photography and the Pica Saved My Life. I went, wow, that's intriguing. I love little stories. So I read it. What happened was, here in Alaska in 2018, we had an earthquake. You probably heard about it. It was a 7.1. So it was pretty heavy duty. Everybody talks about it. Where were you when that earthquake happened? That was not the 64 earthquake. That was, 9.2, I think. But anyway, so that earthquake shook up this person's well. Okay, now he lives in Wasilla, Alaska. His name is Philip Flippo, and he never he didn't mind the taste of his well water, but his wife never liked the taste, so she'd always drink bottled water. Very interesting. Well, after the earthquake, he started having symptoms, horrendous symptoms. He became debilitated. 4 years spent in hospitals, Mayo Clinic, this one, Cleveland, all over the place, all over the country. They couldn't figure out what it was. They finally figured it out. Arsenic poisoning, because his house was not too far from an old gold mine. And whatever happened with that well, it was in the water. It shook it up. And his wife, because she drank bottled water, never got sick. So here they are. He's 36. He had always worked big jobs in offices all his life. Even though he's from Alaska, never really saw the outside because he was always working in an office. Well, he was debilitated and he didn't feel, and then he found out he had a little brain tumor, and all the pain every day. You're thinking of the pain in your head and you don't want to be drugged. And so he loved to cook, and he figured, well, I could do something. I'm going to cook. Oh, I'll take a picture of my cell phone from the dinner I made. Well, a local, and he posted on Facebook, that generation. Here's what I had for lunch. They posted on Facebook. So in our day, like, Grandma, this is what I had for lunch. You just wrote a letter, but now everything's posted on Facebook. So a local restaurant saw the picture and said, hey, this is nice. Could you take pictures of our menu? Well, he felt validated. Somebody thinks I'm worth something now, because he couldn't work his old job. Well, they went down, and him and his wife, they bought a camera from a local camera shop. And he said, oh, I want to see the animals. Where are they? And he went to the local, land management, and everybody laughed at him because you live in Alaska, you don't know where the animals are. They gave him a map. Make a long story short, he really got into this and was outside every day with nature, and got into taking pictures of the pika. They're the smallest of the rabbit family, and they're like 15 minutes from my house, in Hatcher's Pass. Well, maybe an hour. It's very high on this area we have. And 7 months later, after he picked up a camera, he's an award-winning photographer, wildlife and nature. Amazing story, happy guy. And he said, had he never had this horrendous thing happen, he wouldn't be the happiest in his life in a new career. And that's the culmination of turning something around. But
that's fantastic.
yeah, great story. One of my favorite stories.
I've got one more choice. It was Cadet Bonehead.
Yes, yeah. That's Max James. He was in a writing group I was in, and he wrote a book, great book called The Harder I Fall, the Higher I Bounce? And that was one of the stories in it. And he gave me permission to use it. Yeah, he had been in the Air Force, and one of the cadets under his that he was responsible for was not responsible and was and gave harm, really very irresponsible to one of the previous cadets, and did this rifle push-ups and whatever. Make a long story short, he was called in the carpet, lost his whole rank until the last week of graduation. But the big lesson, because he had been very successful in business years after he graduated from the Air Force, very successful businessman. But what he learned from that principle was you can delegate responsibility. Like, you have authority, but how do you make someone under you responsible? See, that's an integrity issue, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
All integrity,
so
much. Yeah. Integrity is, if you have a job, you're responsible. You have to have integrity and the ethics to follow out what you're supposed to do. But this cadet hadn't, and it reflected on Max's authority.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, and I like to see this, especially wrapped around with integrity. I was in the Army, and I was the taking me back. I was the honor graduate of my drill sergeant school.
Oh,
so I became
excellent.
a drill sergeant.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't think I'd ever make it, but I did.
But you did, and I'm sure you did it with a lot of integrity.
That's great. I love it. I love it.
Good.
I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
You don't see or hear very many peppies coming through the sound. You're a pretty peppy person.
Yeah.
And you don't see many of that at all. Most people will say, well, I did this, but that's okay. So you drive the train.
I'm great. Enthusiastic.
Yes, that too.
Age denial.
Let's see. Oh, yes. I want to thank you for being our guest today. And I know that my audience is going to enjoy it as well. And tell them about the book title. That's one thing to leave.
Thank you.
With. Good.
Fill your glass with gold, even when it's half full or even completely shattered. But all if you do, you look up Fill Your Glass with Gold, Hillary Safran, and there it is. And then on the author's page, if you click on my picture on Amazon, then you'll see the other books on the author's page. I did have some, I do appreciate humor. So I do have a book, Boomer Haiku and More Random Silliness. So I have some fun things there.
Sounds like it.
Yes.
I want to thank my listeners for tuning in, for searching for integrity. I'm sure that they had quite a treat today. You coming on the show with us, with me, Hillary Safran. And so long, and happy trails to all until we meet again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.